Today I chat with Sheldon Quarmby. Sheldon is the founder and CEO of Interfile. He's passionate about the role technology plays in streamlining processes and improving people's lives. Welcome, Sheldon. What and who is Interfile?
Thanks, Dan. Interfile's we sort of deem ourselves to be a Fintech company, but we're really a services organization. So we use technology to provide services. We started off initially building SARS eFiling all the way back in the year 2000. It was initially called Tax Break, became SARS eFiling in 2003. And we've sort of progressed to being involved across Department of Labour, municipalities in terms of cities, etc., and into the private sector. We really all around saying we need to make a difference. So whatever we do and whatever we build must make a difference. And we've seen it in city environments. We've seen it in the likes of SARS. We're seeing it today in the likes of UAF. So that's what we do. And yes, utilizing technology for business and utilizing technology for services.
And with COVID-19 being the topic of discussion, what is your worst nightmare for yourself and for Interfile?
I don't think there's a real nightmare for myself or for Interfile. We've been a digital business for many, many years. So, COVID-19 came along and lockdown happened. And immediately my guys went home and they said, this is fantastic. Now we can work from home. And they continued to work. So for us, there's not really a nightmare. I think my personal nightmare is due to our involvement with government and our involvement specifically with the Department of Labour. And it really looks towards poverty and unemployment. So if we look at it today, we're seeing this massive need for us to support individuals who are not earning any money. And there's this big drive, and we're seeing information around temporary unemployment, so TERS, and the relief schemes for temporary unemployment. However, there is this massive jump in permanent unemployment. So we run and we assist the department with the uFiling system. This is where people claim if they're unemployed. The increase in claims is huge. And I think that's not what people are seeing. They're not seeing that. They're seeing this temporary unemployment. So I think that's a huge problem. And it worries me a lot because we're going to see an increase in crime, because as people are not earning money, they need to feed themselves, need to feed their families. So we'll see a crime increase. So today, we've seen government provide those sort of services, but at the same time, government are implementing things like new regulations and impacting on people's privacy. So I get a concern about saying, well, these new regulations, we have a view that it's going to last for a few months. It's not. How long will it take to unravel these regulations? How long will it take to bring us back to a norm? And I think that's going to be years. At the same time, we have this impact on privacy. So everybody has scrambled to build tracking applications. We're tracking people's movements. We're tracking what you do. We're tracking who you socialize with, who you interacted with. That is going to be a huge challenge. People are going to start challenging privacy laws, saying you cannot track me, and especially in my social world. So I think this long-term unemployment, this long-term impact in terms of things like regulations and how long they'll take to relax, as well as the impact on privacy, those are probably the biggest things that I think about.
So as you've mentioned, you've been involved in quite a few large online government systems. What are some of the benefits that you are seeing and also some of the key challenges that you are facing?
So Dan, I think probably what I mentioned earlier is our involvement with the Department of Labour. We, and specifically in terms of the uFiling system. I go back through the years when we did SARS eFiling and we had huge load on the system and we spoke about the benefits it was providing there. We've seen it in terms of certain things within the city of Tshwane, when we implemented stuff like meter readings, we reduced call center load by 30%. What we haven't seen is this desperate desire and the specific requirement for people to have to work remotely. So those were always things that gave people an option to do it remotely, and we would tout the benefits of doing it remotely. Suddenly, we've been catapulted into a new world where you have no option but to do it remotely. Now, government is providing stimulus packages, and one of the key things they're doing is they're providing support for people who are temporarily unemployed. That's critical to get money to these individuals so they can get food into their mouths. Now, the uFiling system is at this point in time, it's coping with around about 3,500 concurrent users. That means 3,500 people at the same time doing an application for benefits, or they're doing a user registration, or they're declaring their domestic or their employees. 3,500 people at a single time. What does that mean? That means I don't need, I've got a reduction. I don't need 3,500 clerks or administrative people to deal with those individuals. The system's doing it. So we talk about the best service is no service. Serve yourself. And this is what's happening. So from a benefit point of view, if the Department of Labor didn't have uFiling in place, I think we'd be dead in the water. I think this country would be battling tremendously. So from a benefit point of view, I think it's been huge. And we're seeing how digital can help us. From a challenge perspective, when uFiling was built, we looked at this and we said, how many people do we have on average using the system? And we had about 50 concurrent people. So I used the analogy of a road. So we said, well, we've got about 50 cars that drive down this road. Let's test the system to cope with 500 cars. And we did that. And it coped perfectly. All of a sudden, we wake up and there's 50,000 cars on this road. And you've now got to deal with these 50,000 cars. So the greatest challenge we've had is to upscale uFiling, to add additional capacity to it, to add additional people to it, to add additional resources to it, to add additional bandwidth to it, et cetera, for this to cope, without being given any time, without any warning. Nobody said to us within the next 6 months, please provide for this. They said to us, tomorrow we want this. So the system is coping with that, but you have a lot of non-tech savvy people, individuals who wouldn't have done this electronically. They would have gone into a labor center, who are now having to do it electronically, and they battle. So, one of the things that I suppose for me is upsetting as a service provider is our names are out in the market. The Department of Labor and the UIF's name is in the market. And people are complaining because a few individuals have inputted the incorrect information, or they don't understand the technology, and there's complaints. They make mistakes. For example, they put in the wrong bank account number. Then they send a supporting document with a bank account. We say, but you entered the wrong number. Look at the two are different. But they're blaming the department. The department should be applauded for what they've done. I think they've done a phenomenal job. They're servicing the citizens very well. And without this country would be in serious trouble. So I think, as humans, we have this nature of blame. It's like we blame the Chinese for the fact that we have COVID-19. We always look to blame. We also need to start to think about how do we applaud and how do we compliment and how do we thank. And I think in this instance, for me, it's a big thank you to Labor for what they've done.
I absolutely agree. How are you managing this crisis within Interfile? I know it must be manic at this stage. What are you doing to encourage your staff?
So Dan, I think, as I said, we're a business who's believed in digitization for 20, 30 years. We've always said, you should be digital. We need to move to this world. So we've actually been quite well prepared for it. I think the biggest challenge is the social interaction. People miss that. So we have management meetings via GoToMeeting. People are sitting at home, and what happens is towards the end of the management meeting, suddenly everybody's sitting on a call. So in the office, 5 o'clock type scenario, I want to go home. Here at 7 o'clock at night, we're all chatting because people are desperate for communication. They just want to speak to another human being. So that's been very interesting, is to see that. We've done a lot of work around giving our people the tools. So from saying, do you have a decent chair to sit in at home? Do you have headphones? Do you have a microphone? Do you have the tools to enable you to work? Do you have the bandwidth at home? Now, utilizing a lot of technology people, they have got things like fiber, but other staff of ours, call center operators, etc., consultants who do work from home now require better bandwidth. So we've done a lot around supporting the people to work from home. And to be honest with you, we've already prepped ourselves. Our offices will change. We have an office in Johannesburg, a head office in Joburg, and we have an office in Pretoria. My Pretoria office lease expires in January next year. We will shut down that office. We will not renew the lease. And those individuals will continue to work from home. So whereas previously, I myself as a CEO was concerned about, would my people be effective from home? I was forced to learn that they're very effective from home. So I think the work from home thing has been interesting. The social aspect is the difficult part. But as a business, we've been busier now than ever. We are working 7 days a week.
And what other projects apart from the UIF system are you currently involved in?
So the other very interesting one is the cities. We've always been looking and saying we need to digitize the cities. So let's talk about a smart city. And I'm going to use the example of the city of Tshwane. They're our capital city. They're also probably the most advanced when it comes to electronic services. We've been working with them for a number of years. What we're finding now is a greater utilization of the services that are there. But there's some very interesting small things that you don't realize. So we now have social distancing. And of course, we've had severe lockdown. What that's meant is that people cannot go out and do meter readings. Guys that normally arrive at your house and read your meter, they can't do that. Or they're battling to do it. So it ends up with the cities now suddenly doing estimates and estimate billing to customers. People don't like estimates. So you have this huge reduction in revenue collection that the municipalities are experiencing because of all of these estimates. City of Tshwane, on the other hand, doesn't have that because we've had online meter readings for years. And quite simple, you submit your meter reading. If we want to query it, we ask you for a photograph with a GPS location. We know where it's coming from. So that enables the City of Tshwane to now make sure they've got accurate billing. Then, of course, we're seeing not just people who have lost their jobs temporarily or not getting paid temporarily or earning less money. Even those who are earning money are not paying for their services. When you pay your accounts every month, who's the last one you pay? The city. You pay everything else first. You pay your Edgar's account first. You pay your liquor bill first if you can buy liquor, etc., etc. Those are all paid first. The last one you do is pay the city. However, if we make it a simple service, and I make it something that is easy to do. So when I receive my bill, I can click a button and pay it. I'm inclined to do that. So we see a better level of revenue collection in the City of Tshwane than what we see in other municipalities. Also, we have people still, and we know the deeds offices are starting to open now, but we require clearance certificates. Clearance certificates are a huge process to implement. City of Tshwane has an online clearance certificate process, a business process that's been implemented. Attorneys are applying and getting their clearance certificates electronically from their offices. And in many cases, not their offices because they're also at home. So they're doing it from their houses. And they're getting it back from the city in a better level of service. We are seeing that smart cities are critically important. And we're seeing this more and more so now. And we're seeing greater utilization. And the use of more technology. So we're now starting to see the movement into things like WhatsApp. So we have a WhatsApp service now where I can now receive my bill and pay it via my phone. It's using WhatsApp, a technology I'm used to, not an app I have to download and get something different, a standard messaging technology I love and use every day. City of Tshwane offers that. They're the only one. So there's no doubt that some of these things that have been implemented, now people are starting to see the real benefits. So there was always questions, but now it's just as well we have this thing. And for us, we sit here saying we've made a difference. And it's almost as though we're saying, well, we told you so. We knew this. But for us, it's good. And I think for the citizens, it's very good. And I think for the municipalities, it's very good.
And have you seen any other South African and African cities taking this approach? You're mentioning the City of Tshwane. What's the conversation like with other cities?
So very interesting. You asked me that question. I have two of my executives at this very point in time sitting at one of our large metros with the decision makers who are saying, how can you help me? We are desperate. And not help me in 6 months' time, not build me a new system. What do you have? And fortunately, we have the systems that we can replicate. So I can effectively paint a new front end and connect it to another metro or a municipality. And I can get that then implemented, present the bills, collect the money, have it all running within a sort of 2 week to 3 week time frame. Now, that's unheard of in this type of technology and what we're doing, integrations with banks, et cetera, et cetera. So we're able to do that. And yes, I have people sitting right now today, one of the very large metros, utilizing our COVID-19 capabilities that we have in being able to travel because we are essential services, and saying, how do we now help this metro to be able to get over this heat? Because I think one thing I wanted to add, which didn't really ask, is that we must always remember that a city is there to provide services to its citizens. if we as citizens don't pay the city, well, they can't provide us the services. But what's interesting that we're seeing now is this move within the environment, and and things are changing rapidly. So, I think you mentioned to me once before when we spoke, what is happening in terms of urbanization, and what are we going to see within the cities? Well, guess what? We're going to see disaggregation. I think we're going to see people moving out of the cities, because what's happened is I've now suddenly been able to work from home. And guess what? It's improving in terms of the amount of time I see my kids. It's not unusual now to get on a Zoom meeting or a team meeting or a go-to meeting and hear a dog barking in the background or a kid laughing in the background. And that's really how life should be. Why should we have to, as a business, always have this staid approach, etc.? Why can't I have my kid in the background, a noise in the background, and I can stop at lunchtime and have a snack with the wife, etc.? Why not? So I think what we're going to see is, as people get used to this work from home scenario, I don't need to live in a city. I don't need to live in a suburb. I can live an hour away, 2 hours away, because I come into the office once a week, once a month. So I think we'll start to see a move out of the suburbs, a move out of the cities. Now, that's going to make it even more interesting, because now suddenly we start seeing less cost and less cost from the city. Because today, give an example, I've got 1 million cars, for example, driving down this road because everybody going to work. Tomorrow, I've got 200. Less maintenance, less road maintenance, etc., etc., etc. So I think we will see a rapid change in cities. I think we will see more people staying outside of them, living better lives, more enjoyable lives, lower cost lives. And I think we will see lower costs from the city as they move to digitization, and we will see better services coming out of those environments.
I saw on a tweet today that on the topic of jobs is that a lot of people are proud and saying, oh, I can work from home now. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, yes, you can work from home now, but this kind of situation allows a lot of competition in jobs, because if everyone can work from home, it doesn't matter where you are. So in the near future, we might be competing with a lot of African countries for jobs, or even on a global level. Do you agree?
I do, but I see a bigger problem. I think that, yes, it opens up competition, and we've had it to an extent. So we live in a digital world already, and today we have a customer, and we're busy building it in the USA. I don't have an office there. We build it from here. When we have discussions with them, we've been using GoToMeeting for the last year. So for my guys, it's no different. And we've been doing business in the US using GoToMeeting, utilizing Saving technology, etc. So I think, yes, maybe some greater competition, we'll see, but I think we have a greater problem. Today, and I agree with it, government is focusing on supporting people with temporary unemployment who have lost their jobs. So we're saying, we will pay you a salary so you can get food. And that's great, but government cannot sustain this indefinitely. We can't be paying people salaries forever. We're moving into more digitization. People are embracing it. That means a loss of jobs. I think the next phase we're going to start to see is the Department of Labor not paying people salaries, but the Department of Labor being involved, and potentially other government areas being involved in reskilling and retraining. We need to upskill people. We need to educate people on how to work digitally. So that individual administrative clerk who sat within a contact center at the city of Tshwane when a customer came in and had a query, you need to now learn to do that from home. And you need to work from home. How do I work from home? How do I get used to operating from home? When I get up in the morning, I make sure that I get dressed and I don't sit in my pajamas the whole day, that I look after myself, that I take a tea break, that I take a lunch break, etc. So we have to teach people, firstly, technology, and teach them how to use the technology. And they're going to have to teach people how to actually work from home. So that's going to be very important. I think the other big area is that we are going to have to start building locally and manufacturing and designing locally. We cannot continue as a country to be importing everything. And that we're going to have to build. So a friend of mine, as an example, has a large warehouse in KwaZulu-Natal. He was telling me now how he's battling to get approvals to turn the warehouse into a manufacturing plant to make masks. We need to make it easier for people. We need to be able to help support the growth of local business, local manufacture. And local manufacture, right from the point of saying, well, we're making masks to, yes, we're making cars and more. But that's going to be the next step. So today we help you with your salary. Tomorrow we help to educate you. We help to buy local. And I think that will then see a substantial change in South Africa and a substantial growth in our economy. But without that, the people who are losing their jobs today will not get jobs. It's a new world, and we need to start changing into that new world. And I think government are thinking about it already. I'm quite sure they are. The focus right now, sustain lives, protect us from falling ill, and protect us from the deaths we would see. But going forward, realign the market.
And Sheldon, is there a specific belief that you had before this pandemic that other people might not have agreed with you on that well? Is there a belief that's been changed now, or some belief that's been confirmed?
Go digital. I think it's that simple. You know, I often sort of say, I relate a story to my friends. I've never related the story to the public, but I'll venture out to relate the story. Many years ago, and I'm going back to 2007, we had been obviously very much part of building SARS eFiling and building the system. And around about 2007, there was a CIO that had changed, and the CIO that was there at the time, we had a meeting with him, and we said, look, we would like to now make individual taxes available on SARS eFiling. So prior to that, it was only corporates. You could do VAT, PAYE, EMPs, and those sorts of things, but you couldn't file your individual tax return on SARS eFiling. And he to us and said, guys, I come out of the bank. I know what I'm talking about. You have no idea. Individuals will never use SARS eFiling. You're not going to see individuals going in and filing their tax returns electronically. Never. It'll never happen. So we said, well, can we build it at risk and put it on? And eventually he said, fine, you can do it. Build it if you want to, but if it doesn't work, I'm not paying you. We said, well, that's fine. And slowly but surely, he actually then suddenly sort of changed and got involved with us in doing it. And we built the SARS eFiling. And part of the discussion was, you know, he said, if you have 30,000 users in a month, you'll be lucky. We had over 1 million. And today, 90% of tax returns are done electronically on the system. And of course, it does lots more things. We've seen the same thing in other areas. You know, we saw the same thing with UIF. You know, UIF, I recall 2010, I was standing with the then Commissioner, Boas Saruwe, looking down, and there was all these boxes at the UIF building. And I said, what are all those boxes? And he said, they're claims. So what do you mean claims? No, they're claims for benefits. So people are applying, they're unemployed, they've lost their jobs, they've fallen pregnant. So I said, oh, geez, you must get those into the warehouse. He said, what do you mean get them into the warehouse? We still haven't processed them yet. And at that point in time, it was taking 6 to 8 weeks to process a UIF claim. Now you can imagine if we were in that world today. We're not, fortunately, but those early days, they didn't really believe us that it would work. It did, and today it's working more and more so. So I don't think it's a case of people don't believe that these things work or that digitization is important. I think we're not people that like to change. The majority of individuals don't like change. I like it the way it is. Don't change it. It's lovely like this, protecting jobs, etc., etc. And now this has catapulted us again. I've used the word twice. I think it's taken us into a new world where we have to accept change. And guess what? We've accepted it. We've been forced into this remote scenario. You and I are talking via a computer. We should be sitting in a room around a table. We're not doing that. It saved you a flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg. It's a lot of money. Saved a lot of time. And we can communicate just as well. We're forced to do it, and it's fine. Previously, we didn't want to change. So I think, yeah, this view that digitization is there and this acceptance is there. We're just fortunate that we're sitting in the middle of it, and we've built these systems. We have these systems. We can replicate them to help. So from that sense, it's great. And we've been, you know, the nice thing as well is we've been able to do that now. So we've been able to help government in this crisis where we have built new systems and put them online in a very short space of time. Actually at no cost. We've done it for free for government at this point because we believe we need to give back, but quickly. So yeah, digitalization, that's the new norm.
Well, on behalf of me and the majority of South Africa, thank you for having these conversations in advance, so we are prepared for this pandemic. Sheldon, Is there any words of encouragement that you have for fellow industry colleagues who might not be as optimistic about the future?
We just spoke about change. I think we need to embrace change. I think that we need to stop blaming. People keep blaming. There's always blame. And I think we need to appreciate that going forward, yes, it's going to be a new world. There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. There's these views of, oh, we'll go back to normal. No, we won't go back to normal. We will go back to a semi-normal, but it won't be normal. And there is, you often hear people say never waste a crisis. And I think that's a bit harsh today because we're talking about lives. So it's very difficult to say don't waste a crisis. But let's understand what this crisis presents. And let's say, how do we change? How do we improve? What can we do? There's a lot of positivity. Yes, sure, maybe you can't go to work at the moment. You're not an essential service and presently you're having to stay at home and you're not earning as much money as you would normally do. But guess what? You're spending more time with your kids, or you'll be able to do chores around the house, etc., etc. So there's always positives. From an industry perspective, the IT industry, I don't think that there's that many people in the IT industry that are negative. I think the majority are positive. I think the negativity comes around those that have to have the face-to-face interaction, and that's the retail stores. My offices are directly across the road from Monte Casino. It is a massive facility. It is a gambling facility that makes an absolute fortune. It has, I don't know how many restaurants, tons and tons of restaurants in it. It's been closed for 6-7 weeks. Those are the ones that are negative. Those are the ones that need to look for new ways of doing things. So somebody mentioned Calcaccios in Cape Town have now done something new. They've packaged pizzas into a make your own. So you can now order your pizza base with all the ingredients and they'll deliver it to your house. And a little instruction, throw the cheese on, throw your various other things, stick it in your oven. And that's what we're going to start thinking of, is those sorts of scenarios. How do we reinvent ourselves into this new world, which actually is an exciting new world? I don't think we should be seeing it so negative. And we're fortunate, I think our government's doing a great job. Yes, we're concerned about the level of regulation. People questioning, are we a police state, et cetera, et cetera. But the first step is look after the people health-wise. The next step is look after the economy. And I think industry has to get involved. Big business, we're a small business, but business, even our people like ourselves, we have to be involved to help to grow the new economy and the new world that we're going to go into. And my last thing I'd really say is I would encourage government to utilize organizations like ourselves to make the changes and make the next step.